protein is not the problem. Fat isn't even the problem. It's the amount that you're eating because you're unaware of it. So I don't know about you, but when I am scrolling Instagram these days, it takes maybe 1-2 posts before I see some woman claiming you need to eat protein if you want to build muscle and get this strong and lean body. Do you know what I'm talking about? Now, I want to be very clear that yes, if you are trying to build a strong, lean body, you do need protein. But there is some nuance to that. And I want to make sure we are really clear on that. So you don't start eating all this protein and then start thinking to yourself, why am I gaining weight? Because I saw somebody talk about that on Instagram. I saw some woman, she was like, oh my gosh, we need to stop asking these women to eat protein because they're eating all this protein and they're gaining all of this weight. It's not the protein. What's happening is a lot of women are now getting fed the message, I need to eat more protein, and they're not taking into account that that means I need to eat more protein, so maybe I need to eat less fat or I need to eat less carb. They're just eating additional protein on top of what they are already eating, and they're eating in a calorie surplus, and that is why they are gaining weight. It is not the protein, it is the amount of food that they are eating. So when we are going through this today, there's just a few things I want you to be mindful of. If your goal is to build a strong and lean body, and maybe you have some weight that you want to lose, and maybe there's some muscle that you want to build, yes, eating more protein, absolutely, it's something that you should definitely consider doing, but there's some nuance to it. And there's just some things that I want you to be mindful of as we are talking about this topic today. So here are some things to just be mindful of. Now, I am not Hillary Irvin. I am not a registered dietitian, so I want to be really cautious before I talk too much about how much of each macronutrient that you should be eating in order to build a strong and lean body. But what I will say is this. We have 3 different macronutrients. We have protein, we have carbs, we have fats. So carbs and protein, there are 4 grams per calorie. Fat has 9 grams per calorie. So if you start eating protein-rich foods that are not necessarily lean proteins, chances are they're probably going to contain a fair amount of fat. So if you are not adjusting what you are eating, it's actually really easy to start eating more protein. Think like red meats, maybe like a burger, maybe think eggs, and you accidentally start eating a lot of fat, where it might not seem like you're necessarily eating that much more, but the fat content can add up really quickly. So as you are adding in more protein sources, we want that, but we might need to be a little bit more conscientious about the types of protein sources that you're adding in, or, eat the red meat, eat the eggs, eat those things that you want to go after, but just be mindful that the fat content is there, and it might be a little bit higher than what you have naturally been going after. So in that case, you might need to make some adjustments in order to not put yourself in a calorie surplus. Something else that typically goes hand in hand is when we start saying, oh, you need to eat more protein in order to build muscle and drop body fat. We also see like strength training go hand in hand with that. And yes, we need both of those things to happen. If you want to build muscle, if you want to drop body fat, you need to eat protein. You need to strength train on a progressive strength training program. However, if you are just getting started with strength training, there's a really good chance that you are now expending more energy and you're probably hungrier than you had been before you were strength training. So even if you are going after more protein, you might be overeating a little bit because now you are hungrier. And yes, protein is a great macronutrient in regards to helping us feel more full, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're not going to have those hunger cues from our body now needing more energy because we are expending more energy in our newfound workouts. All to say, if you are just getting started with strength training and trying to increase your protein intake, it is possible that if you are not aware of how many calories are in each macronutrient, that you could accidentally be eating in a calorie surplus. And again, that is how we end up gaining weight, by eating too many extra calories that our body doesn't necessarily need. And listen, sometimes that's the goal. Sometimes we want to eat in the calorie surplus. Sometimes we are trying to put more weight on our bodies, and that could be muscle, that could even be body fat. But if that is not your goal, be mindful that you do not want to put yourself unintentionally in a calorie surplus. Now, this next one, it is such a small thing, and there's a good chance that you are not encountering this. But if you are somebody who cooks at home, ears up for this one, babe. If you started eating more protein, let's say you are cooking the chicken on the stove, you are cooking the meat, you have the salmon, you have the chicken breasts, the chicken thighs, you have all of these things, and you're cooking it on your pan, I have to ask you, what are you coating your pan in? If you're coating your pan in butter and olive oil, these things can add up relatively quickly. Again, it's not to say stop eating olive oil. It's not to say stop eating butter. These are good things and they have their place. But if you are just throwing a tablespoon of butter, of olive oil, all throughout the pan as you are cooking these protein sources, it doesn't go unaccounted for. So it's possible, even in just those little moments, that you could unintentionally be eating more than you are intending to. And again, it's fat, 9 calories per gram of fat. So that stuff can add up really quickly. We don't always realize it. Like, have you ever gone over to the peanut butter jar container? Have you ever seen what an actual serving size is? It's pretty small. I think it's pretty small, at least. Like, I've always been the person where I'm gonna take a big spoon and I'm gonna get a huge dollop and put it wherever it is I'm trying to put it. When it comes to peanut butter, if you grab a huge dollop, there's a really good chance that you probably just grabbed like 3 servings of peanut butter in that scoop. And again, it might not seem like a lot of food, but because it is calorie dense from the higher fat content, it could easily throw you into a calorie surplus without necessarily realizing it. Now, we've already talked about this next one, but the type of protein that you're getting, it's not all the same. So if you were to pick something like chicken thighs versus chicken breasts, the fat content is different. You're gonna get a lot of protein in both of them, but there's going to be a significant amount more of fat in the thighs than there necessarily is going to be in the breast. And when it comes to making these different choices, even the difference between going with ground beef that's like 80-20% fat content versus a ground turkey that you can get for like 99 to 1%, like these things can make a really big difference. So again, it's not to say don't eat the fat stuff, but what I am trying to say is when you go to the grocery store and you pick out your protein source, if you keep picking things that have a higher fat percentage and you're wondering why you're seeing your weight increase, it's not because of the protein, it's because you are unintentionally eating more fat. And 2 things that are kind of on the same topic is just when we go after things that are promoting, like this is a protein snack, like a protein bar or a protein shake or packaged food that has more protein. Sometimes there's just like hidden calories, like a protein bar. And a lot of times like protein bars, they can be seen as a meal replacement bar. So it's not even like an accidental thing, but there's going to be plenty of protein, there's going to be plenty of carbs, and there's going to be plenty of fat, because the goal of this is to replace a full meal. So if you end up going for like a meal replacement type of protein bar and then you eat a full meal, that's going to add up really freaking quickly. Even like if you're at the gym and you go for a protein shake after your workout, you know, it's great. Add in the whey protein or the pea protein supplement, whatever you're going for. I think all of that stuff is great. But if you're asking for like 2 scoops of peanut butter plus seeds and nuts and these things that avocado, these things that have higher fat in them, and then you go for a meal, well, you can't be surprised as to why you're putting on more weight. Again, it has nothing to do with the protein. It has everything to do with the fact that you're trying to do something good for yourself, but you are unintentionally eating more fat.
Are you ready to start building strength, but feel overwhelmed by complicated workouts and influencers on social media? Foundations is your answer. If you're new to strength training and want a simple, effective way to get stronger, build muscle, and drop body fat, Foundations was designed just for you. What you'll need to get started are just 3 kettlebells. That's it. These 3 kettlebells are all you need to unlock your strength, start building muscle, and start seeing real results. There's no fancy moves, no complicated routines, just the basics that will help you to progress safely and confidently. What you'll get when you join: simple, proven exercises where you will master foundational movements like squats, deadlifts, and presses that will give you strength and confidence. A progressive training program, step-by-step video and written guidance to help you improve no matter where you are starting from. A safe, effective training routine. You'll get to focus on form and build a body that's strong from the inside out. And the best part, it's DIY. You can start right away, no waiting around. You just buy the program today and you get to start building strength from the comfort of your home. You don't need to be fancy to get strong. You just need a solid foundation and the right approach. Foundations is perfect for the woman who is new to strength training and wants to take it at her own pace. She wants to feel empowered, she wants to feel strong, and she wants to feel more confident in her body. If you're ready to begin, visit www.colleenconlon.com for more details and grab your Foundations program today. Again, all you need are 3 kettlebells. I'll take care of the rest.
As somebody who has done this to themselves unintentionally, I just want you to know that it's okay. You're not expected to know this information. You know, everybody's telling you, go eat more protein, go lift the weights, but they're not necessarily telling you the other pieces. And I don't think it's because of ill intention necessarily. I think a lot of times people in the health and wellness space, sometimes they tend to forget the pieces that other people probably just don't know because they have been living in a way where they assume, you know, everybody knows this kind of stuff. But if you are just coming into this space, if nobody has really ever done a deep dive with you on, you know, how much protein should I have? What kind of protein should I go after? This, that, and the other, then it's okay. You know, give yourself some grace, give yourself a break, and just remember that we're talking about it now. And listen, you know, it has taken me such a long time to get to where I'm at in regards to feeling really confident with my body. And that has meant, you know, doing things where I think I'm doing the right thing. And in reality, it wasn't necessarily. Like, I remember when I started doing keto, I did keto for, I want to say like 6 months. And I was like, whoa, I'm doing such a great thing for myself. But the amount of fat that I was consuming was insane. I feel like I've talked about this on another podcast episode, but I was eating these fat bombs. If you've ever done keto, I'm sure you've heard of a fat bomb. And it's like peanut butter and coconut oil, and you like mix it all together. There's other stuff in it too, but it's predominantly those 2 things, which there's a lot of fat. And you mix it all together, you put it in the freezer, and then you have this delicious sweet treat. And I would put mine in like this huge cup. It was like a cupcake container, but bigger and in the shape of the rose. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, what a great thing I'm doing. My skin is going to look so gorgeous, all of this fat. I'm going to drop the body fat. And when I know what I know now, it's just like, babe, that's not how it works. It's not how it works. And that's okay. You know, we're not expected to know everything, but when we can listen to information where it is giving us more evidence, teaching us, you know, this is the way to go about it instead, then we have to see it as, okay, well, now this is the new stepping point. I can make a better choice today, even if I didn't get to make that choice yesterday, and it's going to set me on a different path. And there's still a couple of things that I want to talk about in regards to just understanding why you might be eating more, thinking that you are eating more protein, but you're actually eating like a lot more fat. If you are somebody who is going out to restaurants frequently, and I would say frequently would be like getting a takeout meal or going out to eat more than 2 times a week. You just have to be aware that a lot of times when you are going to a restaurant or you are going to some type of a small kitchen setting, they want the food to taste good. And it's not to say your food isn't going to taste good without oils or butters, but everything does taste better, I find, at least, with butter and oil. So if you are, getting things made in some type of a cooking pan, you just kind of have to assume that there's probably going to be some type of a fat content in terms of what they've used to coat the hot plate with before cooking your food. So if you're getting stuff like that day after day for multiple meals and you're wondering why your weight is, not necessarily staying the same or going down, but it's going up, like that could easily be a reason why. And the other thing is, you might just not be accounting for toppings on things, even like coffee. What do you put in your coffee? Personally, for the longest time, my pick was International Delight. I loved International Delight. Once I started tracking macros, I was like, okay, we have some more calories in International Delight coffee creamer than I necessarily realized. And can I tell you something? Do you know what I did? Do you think I cut out the International Delight? No, I actually didn't. I love International Delight. So I still drink it, but it's one of those things that I have to take into account in regards to my fat content and my overall calories throughout the day if my goal is to maintain a particular weight. And it's a lot of things that can seem so little that add up relatively quickly. Again, if you're going for peanut butter and instead of, scooping out an actual serving size, you're accidentally getting 2.5, that adds up really quickly. The olive oil, the butter, the sauces, all delicious things, all things that you can absolutely have. And I encourage you to eat these things. I just want you to become more aware of the amount of calories and the fat content that are in these things. Again, we need fats. We need calories. This is not about cut everything out. It's about understanding why does it feel like I'm eating the same amount of food, but my weight's going up? It's probably because the protein that you are picking is now coming with additional fat and you are unintentionally eating more calories than you realize you're eating. That's what's going on. Protein is not the problem. Fat isn't even the problem. It's the amount that you're eating because you're unaware of it. So if you're listening to this episode right now and you're thinking to yourself, oh, maybe my weight hasn't gone down. Oh, maybe my weight has been going up because maybe I have unintentionally been eating more food than I realize, then here's what I want to encourage you to do. Start tracking your food. Start tracking your food for a week. Now, if that feels triggering to you, okay, don't. If this feels triggering to you, I say this from the bottom of my heart as somebody who's been on this side. You have to work on your mental health. You have to work on your mental health because if you are somebody who's like, I really want to be able to change my physique, but I can't get the negative talk out of my head to do it, that has to be step one. Or you're always going to be in this weird hamster wheel cycle trying to get ahead, but not being able to get ahead because your brain is just getting in the way. So if you feel triggered when I say track your macros, please go seek the help from a professional that can help you in that space. And if you feel like you can track, I don't want you to take pictures. I want you to actually track your food. That might mean measuring it. So in that case, if you don't have a food scale at home, I would encourage you, go on Amazon, go buy a $10 food scale, start weighing your stuff. You can use an app like My Macros, you can use My Fitness Pal. There's all of these different free apps where you can just scan the barcode, measure out how much food you're eating, and just see how much food are you eating. And if you are going out for a lot of your meals, you can also search on Calorie King. Now listen, this is not as accurate because we're doing a little bit of a guess and check, but if you go to the website Calorie King, that will give you a macronutrient breakdown for a lot of meals that you will find out at different fast food restaurants or different chain restaurants that a lot of us have regardless of where we live in the world. And then after you have a week of actual information in front of you, it's going to be a lot easier to put the pieces together and see, oh, maybe I am eating a little bit too much, or maybe I'm not eating as much as I realized. Now, if you don't know how many calories you should be eating for your goal, yes, there are a lot of different websites, a lot of free websites where you can just do a Google search, how many calories should I be eating based on my goal and based on my current weight. The reason I'm not crazy about that stuff is because a lot of times these different websites do not fully take into account your activity level. A lot of times we, as the person trying to get this information, we tend to either overshoot or undershoot how active we actually are. And this can really change the kind of results that we get from a generic website like this. So the best thing that you can do is connect with a registered dietitian who has a lot more tools in their toolbox to support you and make sure you actually are eating enough of the calories that you're supposed to eat from carbs, from fats, and from protein. But if that's not something that you can currently do, absolutely go to one of these free websites. You can even go to ChatGPT and get something that's kind of like a rough generic breakdown. Just understand when you are working with somebody who can ask you a lot more questions and get a little bit better of an understanding of your current activity and your health history, you're just going to set yourself up for so much more success. And I can attest to that. I've worked with Hillary Irvin, who's been on this podcast several times, for over 3 years at this point. And prior to working with Hillary, I did a lot of the Googling. I did a lot of the free stuff. And I will tell you, the results I've found from working with a professional is significantly different than anything I've ever done on my own. But if that's where you need to start, I think it's a great starting point. So figure out, how much do I actually need to be eating for my goals? And then start tracking your food and see, is it actually adding up? Once you do that, you're going to have a much better understanding of why the scale might not be moving or why it might be moving up a lot. So just remember, it's most likely not the protein's fault. It's probably the fact that you are unintentionally eating in some type of a calorie surplus as to why things are just not going the way you necessarily intended them to go.
Thanks for tuning in. If this episode hit home, don't forget to leave a rating and review. Women are stronger together, so share this with a woman who you want to see rise. When we embrace positive takeaways, we level up, and when we share them, we change the world. Follow us on Instagram at The Dangerous Women Podcast and let us know what you want to hear next. And remember, dangerous women redefine wellness and the world. So be fierce, be authentic, be dangerous.